Welcome to the Love Lab Podcast, a safe and fun place to get real and learn about sex. Whether you're a man or woman, single or couple, this is the show for you. I am your host, Kevin Anthony, and I am here to guide you to go from good to amazing in the bedroom and your relationships. All right, welcome back to the Love Lab Podcast. This is episode 308, and it is titled, Why Your Sex Life is an Essential Part of Your Personal Growth. And I have a guest with me today who I will introduce in a minute. You may recognize her if you're a long-time listener to this show. She's been on before. But before we do that, a short ad from my sponsor, Power and Mastery 3.0. Power Mastery 3.0 is the latest version of the popular men's sexual mastery course. If you are struggling with erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, or simply want to increase your skills in the bedroom, then Power and Mastery is for you. Join the exclusive club of men who have taken their sexual performance into their own hands and become sexual masters. Mastering your sexuality is a key component to becoming the man she has always dreamt of and craves. Don't leave your sexual performance up to chance or the throw of the dice. Become a sexual master today by going to powerandmastery.com and joining the exclusive club of men who have taken their destiny into their own hands. That is powerandmastery.com. Okay, today my guest is Susan Bratton. She is one of the very few guests to ever make a repeat appearance on this show. She is considered the intimacy expert to millions and is a champion and advocate for all those who desire intimacy and passion in their whole life. She is founder and CEO of two companies, Personal Life Media, as well as the 20 LLC. If you haven't heard of those before, there will be links in the bottom so you can go check those out and see what she is up to. She's also the best-selling author and publisher of 44 books and programs, including Relationship Magic, Revive Her Drive, Ravish Him, The Passion Patch, Hormone Balancing, and Hot to Trot. And if you have been following any of the products, you know, on our website, we have a whole section of products. You will see some of Susan's products on there, so you may be familiar with them already. So Susan, welcome to the show.
It is my honor to be invited back again. I remember what a good time we had. So I'm happy to be here, sweetie pie. Super happy about it. And I love the topic that you picked because, you know, when you go through my material, I've been doing this for so long. There's a lot of stuff we could talk about. So I like what you chose. I was excited to see you today because we did a, pre-interview to talk about what you might be interested in for your listeners. And after 307 shows, I wanted to see what you picked, and I love the topic.
Yeah, when we started this show, I knew that I had a lot to say, but I had no idea it would be anywhere near 308 episodes. I was like 25, I don't know, 50 maybe if we're lucky. 308.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you was, in the years that you've been doing your show, what do you think were some of the some of the aha moments, some of the best things you learned, because you have put so much time and energy into producing this excellent Love Lab show. What were some of those big ones for you?
That's a really great question. I love how you're turning the interview back on me. But here's what I would say about it in general, is that while I felt like I really had a pretty broad knowledge and I felt like I already knew a lot when it came to teaching sex, love, and relationship, not only the process of researching the episodes that, I or Selena and I did on our own, but also I have had now somewhere around 110 guests on this show who are experts in every aspect of sex, love, and relationship you can think of. And I always learn something from the guests that I have on the show. So I feel like at this point, I've basically been through a PhD program in sex, love, and relationship, because there's very few experts out there that I haven't talked to and picked their brains on and read their books. Whenever they send me their books, I read every single one of them, which always amazes people. Other than picking out very specific things, I would just say that it's really improved my knowledge and my skill set when it comes to not only my own personal life, but also, helping other people through my coaching. So
Mhm.
it's been great. It's been amazing to be able to put information out there that helps people, and I get amazing feedback all the time. And at the same time, it's literally like I said, I feel like I've been through a PhD program.
Mhm. One of the things that I've really been helped by in doing hundreds of podcast appearances over the years, close to 1,000 now. One of the things that popped in my mind when I ask you the question, my brain answers it too. And the diversity, equity, inclusion, consent piece of things has been because I primarily deal with and am kind of immersed in the world of heterosexual monogamous couples. I'm really 90% of the time trying to help a dude and his lady just have hot sex. That's my thing. So I'm not a therapist or trauma healer or any of those things. I'm really on the plus up side, which is how do you make your sex life super fucking hot? Like passionate, heart connected, conscious lovemaking is my phrase. And so I don't get into so much of the other pieces of sexual growth and expansion outside that kind of heterosexual monogamous world. And I've learned a lot from my hosts about that. And the other thing that I've enjoyed talking to podcast hosts, because podcast hosts like you doing 300 shows, you do have a wide, you have a breadth and a depth of knowledge that we could not have had before the advent of podcasting 15 years ago. You can only get so much out of reading a person's book. What you get out of having a conversation with them is so much more rich. And so one of the things that I've also enjoyed is how many great questions podcasters have asked me that have incremented my thinking, my knowledge, my analytical skills, how I stitch things together, finding new ways to explain things verbally that people can just like implement immediately that will have a massive change for them. That I think that discourse, the dialogue of what we're talking about, and especially how it fits into our changing cultural mores. We are so different now than we were a decade ago about our approach to sexuality. We're much more aware of the kind of how it's been so patriarchal versus matriarchal. We're getting the women's way of needing sex much more in the conversation. We are much more open to kink and BDSM and not looking at it like it's freaky, but literally understanding that those kinds of things can be healing. How women are starting to become much more embodied and sexually empowered and moving from more of the passive receiver to being confidently switchy, which is, I think, a big part of the sexual maturation piece that you want to talk about today. Just the access to so much more information where like even a simple thing like people used to think that female ejaculation must be pee, and now you don't hear that as much, and now you're starting to hear about things I've been talking about for 2 decades, releasing your feminine waters, it being divine nectar, how Amrita is something that allows women to really more fully live into their sexual potential. The same for your power and mastery course, like letting men know that they don't have to suffer with premature ejaculation. They can have unlimited stamina. They can have multiple male full body orgasms. They can feel less performance anxiety and more confidence in doing what they want to do, but by all this awareness that's been created. So it's just a real joy to be back here in the saddle with you again. And I'm going to flirt my ass off with you because you're so handsome. And we
Oh.
have agreed in advance that we have a safe space to be appreciative of each other's sexiness. I mean, when you are a sex educator, you better be walking your talk. You better be sexy. And you are doing it. Thank you so much. You're looking more handsome, more gorgeous than you ever have in your life.
Well, thank you so much. That is very lovely to hear. And yeah, I absolutely love the flirtatious energy. We did talk about that ahead of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that if anybody's listening, we did consciously agree. We consented to
Yes.
flirt with each other,
Yes.
which
Which
is
is so
absolutely fun.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's playing a higher game, knowing that you and I both enjoy the flirt. Nothing will come of it. It's appreciation, adoration, encouragement, um, just letting people know that they're sexy, beautiful, interesting, desirable. I mean, my God, we have this old perspective on, oh, like you can't flirt with someone or your partner will get, upset about it. You should never be doing that. I was like, no, let's all flirt with each other and have a good time. We know where our boundaries are. We're grown ass adults. We can handle ourselves. So to let all that, all those things you're thinking about how much you appreciate someone not be said is like some old Victorian puritanical control mechanism that I do not subscribe to. And so I like to flirt my ass off.
Well, go right ahead. It's a ton
I
of
do
fun.
it.
You, by the way, are also looking very beautiful today, and I have to admit, it's really hard to focus on your eyes when you are busting out of that shirt, that blouse
Boom.
that
I
you're
know.
wearing.
Guys love the gaping button on a blouse. Like there's just something about a gaping button where you're like, let those titties be free.
Right? And the thing is you can't see anything, and I know I can't see anything, and yet I keep trying. So, you know. All right,
Yeah,
all right.
that's a lean toward.
All
Well, I
right.
have to say the same thing for you because I'm thinking that I really want you to flex your biceps for me because look at mine right now.
Oh,
Boom,
oh,
hard as a
yeah,
rock.
yeah. Here we
Yeah, that
go.
looks good. You've been working
Yes,
out.
yes. It's hard
Mm,
there.
yeah, I really
Uh-huh.
think that men's biceps are the equivalent of boobs for on women. I know for me personally, one of the things I love to do when I'm having sex with my partner is I like to grab his biceps and just like hold on to him and squeeze them. And like, it really turns me on as much as when he's grabbing my boobs and squeezing my boobs. I love that too. And I didn't used to even like to have my breasts really even touched. It took me until I was in my 40s before I realized that I even had nice boobs. I didn't even know. And I think so many women don't enjoy the full pleasure potential of breast pleasuring, nipple stimulation, nipple gasms. I mean, they are one of the three erogenous zones: our lips and mouth, our breast tissue, and our vulva and vagina, our yoni, I like to call it. And so many women think there's something wrong with their boobs because they're not like whatever, like looking like these big giant fake boobs that a lot of women have, and they miss out on the everted clitoral erection, which is your clit tissue, all that erectile tissue in your vulva as a woman, which is as much as our male-bodied partners in their penis. It's a lot of material in there. It can get engorged from nipple stimulation and kissing. And when women are kind of like no breast touching, they're really leaving a lot of sensation, not just breast and nipple sensation, but actual orgasmic clitoral sensation on the table. And so I think just bicep squeezing, breast squeezing, there's something about those mechanisms in our body that signal more pleasure pathways to our brain and help us expand the intensity, duration, amount of orgasmic joy we can co-create.
Absolutely. And, most likely if women don't like having their breasts touched, there's probably some trauma there or something
Yeah.
in the way that's blocking that. So this
Yeah.
is this is a relatively good segue into some of the
Yeah.
questions because what we're really talking about here today is personal growth, but how we can use sexuality as a path towards personal growth.
Yeah.
So the first question I have for you is, you know, we've been alluding to it, kind of dancing around it so far, but let's get really literal with it. Like, let's tell
Yeah.
the audience, what does sexuality have to do with your personal growth? How are they
Yeah.
possibly connected? Because when you are out there in the self-help world, it's like sexuality's over here,
Hmm.
personal growth is over here, but
Hmm.
they're not actually separate. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, two things that strike me immediately. One is that as you mature, your sex gets better and better and better over time because, like anything, mastery comes from practice. And so you literally just have more practice, you have more experiences, you have more opportunities to get good. And so sex keeps getting better and better over time if you put your intention on growing your sexuality. If you think about your sex life as part of your personal growth, and you're like, I just want to keep learning about it, I want to keep applying new things, I want to try new techniques, I want to learn more communication skills in the bedroom, I want to keep my genitals working well, so I want to know about intimate wellness and sexual biohacking, sexual regenerative therapies, so that I can keep going, I don't have to worry about having erectile dysfunction, or for women, painful sex and things like that. And so, how do I keep making, like, my vagina now is juicier, more orgasmic than it has ever been in my life. And I will be 63 this month.
Yes,
So
congratulations
it's,
on that.
I'm coming so well in so many different ways. And this from a woman who at 42 almost got divorced because I'd been having sex with my husband for 12 years and I'd never had an orgasm from intercourse. And we're like, we have to be able to figure this out. Like, we're smart people. What can we do? And that set us on the journey of everything from Walking on Fire with Tony Robbins to understanding our relationship values to going to Human Awareness Institute and tantric workshops and orgasmic meditation and, you know, learning techniques and experiencing things and working with a therapist to overcome my traumas from the past, which were definitely holding me back. I was dissociating. It's hard to have an orgasm when you're not able to stay present during sex, you know. So there were, and radical honesty, starting to just be very, very, very truthful about everything. It's a life changer just to not have to walk on eggshells, you know, withhold or, you know, sugarcoat things, but just to be able to be in a primary relationship with my husband of 31 years this week.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 31 years, 33 together. We've been together longer than we've been apart now. He is my life person, but it really changed when we started getting honest about everything together. And it allowed us to have hard conversations. And hard is often admitting your own foibles, insecurities, you know, your own, whatever it might be, your own issues. And I think that really contributes to your overall personal growth when you have loving relationships that are completely honest and straightforward. I'm not even friends with people anymore who are kind of checked out around honesty, who are living in the kind of old societally prescribed paradigm. I just don't even want to hang out with those people. I'm like super choosy about being with people who are into authentic relating. Because if you can learn that in your sex life, that begins to apply to everything you do. You just become a more centered, grounded, authentic person. So that's one thing, is that your sexual maturation, you know, and your sexual growth informs your personal growth. I think they're two sides of the same coin, very similar to how libido and your overall health are two sides of the same coin. Libido is not an alternative mechanism. Libido is like one of those vital signs of your health. And if it's depressed, you know that there's something else going on inside you. It's not your libido, it's some other things. So I think that's one thing. The second thing is that I think there is a level, so that grounding, that authenticity is one. The second thing that I think is very, very helpful is that having great sex really grounds you. It reboots your nervous system. It allows you to generate oxytocin, which is the antidote to cortisol spikes that come from stress and nervousness and generate a lot of loss of sleep, inability to get rest and recovery, which you need. It also has a cascade of neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine and feel good neurotransmitters that are very important. I really think that if our society, if our culture wasn't so sex negative, if sex wasn't so censored, if the only kind of sex that you can actually see is like the stupid Hollywood bullshit old paradigm of sex and pornography, which is generally degrading to women. And so the only kind of cultural things that we have out there are things that really hurt us. And so then that keeps us from having this kind of pleasurable, heart connected, passionate, conscious love making. And then we don't have the rest of our life doesn't go well. How can we be like self-empowered outside the bedroom if we're not self-empowered in the bedroom, if we're not getting all of the physical and emotional benefits of sex, if we're on antidepressants and all we do is spend our time doom scrolling and watching Netflix, we're just basically capitalistic pawns keeping ourselves alive on someone's ultra processed foods and big pharma medications. So I kind of feel like your sexuality is like your motherfucking anarchy. It's like your way to opt out of somebody else's vision of how they're going to manipulate you as a pawn, where you take back your pleasure, your connection, your love, your expansion of your heart muscle and feeling more joy and sensation and orgasm. And knowing that orgasms are learned skills that you can just keep getting. There's 20 different kinds of orgasms your body can have. And really 21 now, I'm up to 21. And 21 is a wild card because I'm always finding more ways to have orgasms. So, it's just like there's a fork in the road for a lot of us. And frankly, Kevin, people who listen to the Love Lab have taken the fork of health and sovereignty, and people who can't bring themselves to listen to podcasts about sexuality are just kind of like they're going to live a shorter, shittier, less healthy, less empowered life with less joy and less pleasure. So I don't want to go red pill, blue pill, because that's been co-opted. I just choose the sensual pleasure path of love and connection and honesty and authenticity. And my time is my own and my joy is my own. And I certainly know how to create more joy from loving, sexy connection.
Wow, you said so much there in that.
I tend to do that. Sorry.
But it's great. It's great. It's just I was thinking to myself, there's no way I can possibly respond to all of it because there was way too many things. But there are a couple of key things that I did want to talk about. Just kind of following up on what you said,
Good. Yeah.
and one of them is that idea that if you're really going to improve your sex life, because the reality is most of us had terrible role models growing up around sexuality, especially here in the West, we weren't really taught sexuality in any healthy way. It was basically a don't ask, don't tell kind of a policy. We learned maybe through some porn, we heard things from our friends, whatever it is. And so because of that, we don't really know how to have great, healthy sexual relationships. So then we have to go learn it. But when we go to learn it, we're inevitably going to bump up against the traumas and the programming and the societal pressures and all of those things, right? So the only way we're ever going to improve our sex life is we're going to have to deal with those issues as well, right? And so that I just kind of want to reiterate that point when we're talking about how personal growth, our own personal growth and the growth of our sex life aren't separate. And if you work on one, you're going to inevitably have to work on the other. Now, let's say you had nothing to do with sex at all, and you just wanted to go on a personal growth journey. You'd eventually come up to some parts of yourself revolving around your sexuality that you weren't even meaning to look at, and you'd be
Mhm.
like, oh crap, now I got to deal with that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So no matter which way you choose to start that journey, you're going to have to eventually come up to, I got some negative stuff around my sexuality, and if I can
Yeah.
figure out how to fix that, I'm going to improve not only my sexuality, but the rest of my life as well. Um, the second thing I wanted to point out also, and this you kind of just dropped in passing, but it's something that I've talked about quite a bit on this show, which is this idea that our sexuality has been used to control us
Yeah.
for centuries. Why? Because it's our life force energy. And if you can dictate how we use that life force energy, you get to control us, right? So this whole idea of breaking out of that is a
Hmm.
huge piece to what I want to help people, learn through the work that
Yes.
I do. And I just know that yes, that will empower your sex life, but it's going to empower the rest of your life outside of that as well. So those
Yeah.
were a couple of huge sort of truth bombs that you dropped there that I kind of wanted to reiterate to the audience to make sure that they really heard those because they're really important.
Ah, good. Thank you. Yeah, when you start to think about how manipulated we are around our sexuality, you get fucking pissed about it. You realize, holy cow, man, like I can't advertise my passionate lovemaking videos,
Oh, I
yet
know. We
I'm
have the
the
same problem.
antidote to pornography, right? So
Mhm.
we are constantly censored, constantly throttled,
Absolutely.
blacklisted, what have you. Being in our business is a labor of love and passion because it is not it is not like when you think about personal growth, there's health, wealth, and relationship. Those are the three big categories. And if you're in health, you can do pretty well in business. If you're in wealth, you can do really well helping people make money. People will spend money to make money. But if you're in relationship, even relationship content is censored because nobody in social media, online, websites, advertising, the brands don't want to be adjacent to anything that smacks of sexuality, like it's some horrible thing instead of a healthy thing. Now these are starting to change. It's so funny. So, my business is I write a sex tips newsletter. People subscribe for free, but I promote products in my newsletter. And I was just thinking that some of the products that I've been promoting recently are certain whole food derived supplements that help with overall health, hormone balancing, a lot of testosterone and estrogen production precursors, things like that, simple things like minerals and what have you. And what I'm really been on lately is a jag to find um, products that are whole food or naturally derived rather than synthesized in a lab, because so much of what we're ingesting is synthesized in a lab, and I'm really interested in eating well, exercising every day, and supplementing, because our food sources, our soils are depleted, and we're in, we have got a lot of agri business now because there's so damn many of us in this world wriggling around. And I was thinking about how kind it is that the brands who partner with me are in my newsletter. And I'm talking about taking spermidine from primidine, the 12, to reverse the 12 hallmarks, 9 of the 12 hallmarks of aging. And then in the next feature in my newsletter, it's like how to give a deep throat blow job without gagging, and why the gag is actually the beginning of the orgasmic contraction, or whatever, a million different things that I write about, like exactly where to find the second structure of the G spot, and here's a giant vulva illustration with a big arrow showing you where it is, next to, Oyster Max, made by a marine scientist and his family who farm an invasive but healthy species of oysters out of the Irish coastal waters and hand stuff the capsules so you get real food derived iodine which you need for thyroid metabolism, which keeps your cells functioning and really grooving. That comes from a natural food source, next to an article about how to get your wife to want to have sex with you again, to the point where she's begging you and setting up dates because you've just been treating her like a dude instead of like a woman. And here's the things women need. And it's just this simple. It's just like, God love them for, allowing me to support them and their amazing work making real products with my blowjobs and my G spots and my get your wife to fuck you.
Yes, yes.
It's happening. People are becoming more open. When
They
you
are.
have a trustworthy brand, I have a trustworthy brand. I've been doing this for decades. I've got a large following. I've proven over time, like you have, that we're solid, not nutty. Because there are a lot of nutty people in the sexuality space who come into it through the trauma window, as I did, and they haven't quite gotten all the work done yet. And so I'm sure you've had a few guests on your podcast where you're like, I might need to edit that part out. That's just total fucking bullshit,
This is one of the reasons I do pre-interview calls. I can suss that out pretty quickly. But you're right, in this industry, and this is true in, if we want to call it the conscious communities or the spiritual
Yep.
communities or whatever terms you want to use, people will have an awakening in one small area of their life. And suddenly now they're like, I got to teach to everybody. And they're all over the place with their new websites and their podcasts and their everything. And I'm going to teach because I've got it down. And really, they've got a small fraction of it. And even that small fraction is only the beginning of the journey. And yet they're out there spewing stuff all over the place. So that is kind of a tricky part it's not so much tricky for people like you and I, but it's tricky for the people out there who are trying to weed through all of the possibilities, all the different podcasts, all the different newsletters, all the different whatever. And like, who is the person that really gets it and that is really putting some good truth out there? And then who are the people that are basically just full of shit? It's not easy to tell necessarily.
Yeah.
And to make it worse, to your point, we get massively suppressed across everything. And I can always tell, if you think what you're looking at in your analytics is organic, wait until they make a little change and accidentally open the door for you a little bit, because this happens every once in a while. And all of a sudden you just see your YouTube channel, your podcast, your online sales will just spike. And then all of a sudden, boom, they'll just crash it right back down again. So you can very clearly see in the analytics how much we are being suppressed and manipulated by the system, because they don't want information like this out there. I mean, we tried, like you said, you can't even advertise relationship stuff. We tried to advertise our programs on social media way early on in the beginning. And they just immediately shut us down. So then we were like, where are we going to advertise? We're like, okay, what if we advertise in places like Pornhub? Because at least they'll let us, right?
Right. And then we end up being porn adjacent.
Which we didn't want to be.
We don't want that.
No. But you know what we learned about that? You've probably seen this too, because there's an important lesson we learned the hard way on that one too, which is that the audience over there, were only looking for quick fixes.
That's right.
So we got massive clicks, tons of traffic through the advertisement, because the people, you could advertise there and the people were interested. But as soon as they saw, oh, like it's a whole program, you mean I actually got to do work? I can't just pop a pill and suddenly be fixed.
Right.
It didn't equate into huge sales. So we realized that wasn't the right place for us. So it's challenging to get this information out there.
Thank God for podcasts, and thank God for you hosting one and doing 308 episodes. God love you for that.
Thank you. That's why we started it.
Yes, I know. And it is the bastion of free speech right now, which is fantastic. It's the one place where we can still say anything we want to say. And so where do you think we should go right now with how can we be of most help to your listeners now that they know that they're like, oh, we're getting the pure shit right here. What do you think is
Okay.
the most powerful thing we could talk about right now?
Ooh, most powerful. That's a good
Hmm.
question. We're
Yeah.
about halfway through, so I am going to pause to do another ad, but I did have a
Oh,
bunch of
yeah.
questions about the differences between male and female arousal and
Yeah.
how men and women approach arousal and when it comes to
Hmm.
arousing their partner and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that could be something interesting to talk about.
I'd love to do that. What are you going to do your commercial on?
Well, because if you haven't realized yet, the majority of ads I do on the show are for my own products.
Yeah. Yeah.
Powerandmastery.com is my own
Yeah.
website. My listeners, of course, know that. And the next one is literally going to be for my coaching program because I
Okay.
can't advertise it on social media, right?
Yeah.
So I have
Yeah.
to do it on my own podcast.
Great. Well, tell me about your coaching program. So, who are you attracting and helping the most right now? What's a typical experience to work with you like?
All right, that's a great question. I'm going to abandon the canned ad here that I
Yeah.
read all the time, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. Okay.
Yeah, good.
So I am currently working with men, women, and couples, which is a little bit of a shift for me because I traditionally always worked with men. And I was
Hmm.
working with men around things like, you know, erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, and then just how to be a better lover, right? How to really
Hmm.
show up for their woman. Not just like, okay, yeah, there's the lasting longer piece, but then
Hmm.
there's all the other things. Like, what does she actually want, right? How does she want you to show up? You talked about a lot of these things, being present, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
There's so many other aspects to sex other than just like, okay, penis goes in vagina, right? I
Hmm.
mean, there's an entire module in there that I teach people around female anatomy where we go into all of that stuff that you
Yeah.
were talking about, most people think the clitoris is just that little teeny piece that you see,
Yeah.
sometimes sticking out and sometimes not, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much more to it. So we really go into all of that stuff. And that was primarily where my focus was. When my wife Celine was alive and we were working together, she was covering the women's stuff. She was teaching them how to female ejaculate. And, she was going into, all the different aspects, teaching them jade eggs and that kind of stuff. And then we would come together and teach couples. Now that she's not here anymore, like I originally just said, I can't work with women the way that she did. And so I pulled all that stuff down from the website and I just stuck with what I was doing. And then over time, it's really opened up and people have been wanting more stuff. Like right now, I'm also doing a collaboration with another company who their entire focus is women. And I'm coming on and coaching all these women and they're absolutely loving it. I'm like, I never thought that I would just be coaching women on like sexuality and relationships, right? Because I was like, shouldn't a woman be doing that? But the thing is they love getting the masculine perspective because
Yep.
it's like as men we go, "Oh, the women are an enigma, like we can't figure them out, we don't understand them, could someone please explain it to me," right? But women are on the other side going, I don't understand why men do what they do,
Hmm.
right? So I realize there's a whole amazing niche there for women to be like, okay, come work with me, I can help you with sexuality stuff and I can help you with relationship stuff and I can really give you that male point of view of what's going on in our minds. Why do we do what we do and how can you work with that, right? So that's a lot of what I'm doing. I love also working with couples because I get an opportunity to get both halves of it. When I work with just a
Hmm.
man or just a woman, I can help him and I'll tell him all the time. I go, regardless of how she responds to what you're doing, you just have to keep doing it. You have to be the best version of yourself and you will see the relationship shift. However, you'll see it shift even more if she's doing her part too, right?
Yeah.
So when I get to work with both of them, then it's even more powerful. So yeah, that's the stuff that I do. I actually really love doing it. Sometimes you'll see coaches, they get kind of jaded when they've been doing it for a while. They're just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to really work with people anymore. Just buy my products and be done with it. And,
Yeah.
and I get it, I do get it, but I still love working one-on-one with people. And so, yeah, that's every show I'll read some version of an ad, aimed at one or the other. Maybe it's aimed at men, sometimes it's aimed at women, sometimes it's aimed at couples. But the essence of
Hmm.
it is if you want to go on this personal growth journey and
Yeah.
improve your sex life and go to some of those places that you mentioned, 21 different kinds of orgasms and the best sex of your life and wetter and juicier than you've ever been in your 60s, right? Like
Yeah.
all of that stuff. Like that's what I'm doing in my coaching.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. I'm glad. I'm so sorry about Celine. And I'm so glad that you are continuing on and carrying the torch. I can't even imagine how that, in some ways ruined a big part of your life and was, I mean, I'm so sorry about that. It's really super, super sad. I just shudder at the thought of having to lose a partner. It's something no one should ever have to go through. And the fact that you are still here, giving your heart and finding joy in supporting other people, even through the grief that you are still dealing with, is, and in a way, I'm sure that the people who work with you, when they choose you and they ask for help, that's a gift they're giving you. It's definitely enriching you and using your talents. And that's joy. When your talents get used and leveraged, that's so joyful. So yeah, I did want to just offer my condolences and deep regrets about that. You two are a beautiful couple, and on the eve of my 31st anniversary, it makes me realize how incredibly lucky I am to have the longevity of my relationship with my husband, because we've been through thick and thin, over and over. Life is a series of mountains and valleys. That is for sure. And but at least even in the valleys, we are still together. And that's why working with sex, not having good sex can be the death knell of a relationship. Not only that, it can be the death knell of your life. You can be that person who doesn't have that good life. And so the opportunity to work with somebody like Kevin and to be able to have his loving heart and experience guiding you into more pleasure and possibility and personal growth is, something really special. So if you've been thinking about working with him, I just want you to do it. If you're listening to us right now, fucking do it. Have some sessions with him. He's a fabulous man. And he's here for you and he wants to give you the love and the, pleasure that you deserve. So if you've been like sticking your toe in the water, jump on in.
Well, thank you for that. I do appreciate that. And it has been it's easier now. There's been enough time that's gone by, but it has been really difficult to continue to do this without her. However,
Right.
she dedicated her entire life to doing this work. And so for me, it was like the best way to honor her would be to
Yeah.
continue it.
Yeah. 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 You guys are so cute together. And we'll always have that.
Yes,
Yeah. And you'll have this again.
I hope.
You will.
She was um, literally the perfect woman for me, the most compatible human being on this planet that I had met and still to this day have met. So it's a huge loss and at the same and that, like on one hand you're like how is that even possible to replace? How was I even lucky enough to find it to begin with? So yeah, that's how it feels
Well,
sometimes, but I do know it's possible.
it is. And I'll tell you something. You probably don't know that I'm polyamorous and have been for my husband and I have been poly for 20 years, over 20 years. Um, and I have the perfect husband for me, but I also have the perfect boyfriend for me. I'm in a throuple with two men, and they're both perfect. And I love them both so much for completely different reasons. So, will you ever find someone who's exactly like Celine? No, you will not. But will you find someone equally perfect in their own way? Do you have more life lessons, adventures, and experiences in front of you? Yes, you do. And I don't prescribe polyamory for people. I'm not one of those people out there going, you should be poly, everyone should be poly. Poly is amazing. Poly's fucking hard. You have to really play a very high game in that world. But that's what I like. I like the higher games.
Hmm.
That's just what, excites me. And so there are other loves out there for you. And because you loved her so much, you will love again and you will love even more. Because what I have learned from one of my mentors, Dr. Deborah Anapol, she wrote a beautiful book. You might have read it. You've read so many books called The Seven Natural Laws of Love.
No, I
And one of
haven't
the,
read that one, but I am familiar with Deborah.
it's a pretty little book. And what Deb actually described, and she's passed away now, we lost her a few years ago, very suddenly. And so you never know when your moment is. So you better just live your life to the fullest and have the hottest sex and the most incredible orgasms you possibly can, because you never know. What are you waiting for? But one of the things that she explained to me was that our heart is like a muscle in a door. That's how I described her work, where it gets bigger and it works better the more you use it. So it's like our biceps, but it is also when you love, you actually feel more love than when you receive love. When you give love, when you put out love, you actually have the feeling of love in your body, in your psychic energy, more than when you are being loved. And part of that is because it takes a lot for us to take in love. And it almost can overwhelm us. It can almost be too much of a sensation. Just like pleasure, when people are first starting to learn how to have really good orgasms, when they're getting their yoni massages, when they're getting their clitoral erections, when they're having their first G-spot pleasuring, when they're ejaculating for the first time, it's almost hard to stay in the sensation. You want to get out because it's so overwhelming. And that's sometimes how it can be. If someone's loving you, you're almost like you want to escape from it. But when you love, you can stay in it a little more easily. And so loving, 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 just everybody, giving it out, giving it out, giving it out. It gets that muscle going so that when people start to love you, you can take it in. I was giving my daughter that lesson at dinner last night. I gave her some kind of a compliment. We have this game we play in our family. It's called Three Things I Love About You.
Hmm.
And you can ask for it anytime you want to. And I ask for it almost every day because I love adoration. I love verbal adoration. I don't think there's such a thing as a praise kink. I think that's bullshit. I think everybody likes to get praised, and it's not kinky. It's normal and natural. And we've been conditioned through this, Victorian puritanical, oppressive construct that we have in our culture to feel like we shouldn't have appreciation. And if you can't take in a compliment when you're like, the very first thing you do is you begin to negate it. Oh no, I'm not that good at it. I'm not really, this person's so much better than I am. There's so much. And I caught her on it, and I was like, babe, just say thank you and take it in. You're incredible. And I just want you to feel that. You don't need to shut that out or shut that down or deflect that. You need to open to the appreciations. It was just in that moment that she did that. She usually is quite good at taking them in. And I think that loving game of the three things that I love about you is like a muscle. It gets easier to do over time. And we try to never say the same thing twice. We try to keep coming up with new things we love about a person. Can I do it for you right now?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, well, one of the things that I love about you is, I would say, just how easy you are to talk to. How your presence and the way you are is easygoing and expansive and open and willing to really listen and hear and take things in, not like cold and resisting and judgmental or superior. You're like right here with me. Your ability to be present is very sexy and makes me feel like you love me and you care about me and you want to know what's going on with me. I love that about you. Second thing is you're super hot looking. I mean, just the fact that I get to spend an hour looking at you on this video, holy shit, are you a good looking man? I mean, first of all, I would really love to see you with that hair, with your hair out of your ponytail, with that long hair flip, because I love that. You're my type that way. I
Oh, okay.
love, oh, he's going
Oh
to
my
take it down.
goodness.
Yes,
It's,
thank
it's
you.
still a little. Oh, geez, I got my ear monitors in. Hold on.
Earmuffs. Yeah, there you go. See, oh, I just love that. That looks so good.
Still a little wet.
Beautiful.
There we
Gorgeous.
go.
I love
That sort of
your
works.
handsome face, your beautiful body, those sexy biceps. You look like you would be a really fun to fuck guy, like strong and a nice size to grab. And I like that. You're very masculine, but you have a softness to you that's very inviting. So, like, you're physically hard, but you're emotionally, you have a soft heart, a soft, sweet heart, which is such a nice combination. So, super hot and sexy. Like, if you were my boyfriend, I would be asking you to slowly take all your clothes off and dance for me and flex your muscles for me and stuff. That would be so much fun. I would want to objectify your hot ass. Isn't that so cute?
Yes, absolutely. I love every bit of it. Yes. You're very
And
good at
number
this
three,
game.
yeah, well, I've had a lot of practice. You get better with practice. And then I would say number three is I like your consistency. You are who you are, and you just keep fucking showing up as that man. And that's a man that a lot of people love, respect, adore, and appreciate. And so if you are listening or watching this podcast right now and you haven't like written a review for Kevin or replied to one of the emails he sent you or let him know how much impact he's having on your life, fucking do it for him. He is an extraordinary man, pouring his heart and his soul and his love into making your life better. And I just really want to thank you for doing that too. I love that about you.
Well, thank you so much. That was lovely. I've never been appreciated like that on this show before.
Good. I like to model good behavior.
And you did an excellent job of it.
I'm
So
a, I'm
thank
a
you.
good girl. I'm such a good girl.
And
All
probably
right.
a bad girl at times too.
Oh, yes. Of course.
Well, I'd love to share some appreciations back towards you if I
Great.
could.
Yes, let's do it. I love it.
Um, One thing that I love about you is your absolute openness to all things sexuality. You do not hide it. There is no shame about it, which is something
Mm.
I've always tried to model myself. And people will say, oh, you make it easy to talk about, but you're exactly the same. Like it's just, you can talk about anything, regarding sexuality and make it fun and make it, have no stigma attached to it and make people want to know more and learn more about it. And that is a beautiful quality because we've talked about multiple times throughout this show about the oppression that has happened and this oppression that still happens in our industry. And so we need more people like you who can actually destigmatize that and show people how normal and beautiful sexuality is. Just the way you are sitting there right now, again, about to pop out of your shirt with your legs spread, you are totally open.
I'm just chilling.
Yeah, exactly. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it puts people at ease and makes them more open to these ideas. So I
Mm,
absolutely love that about you.
thank you.
I would also share also that the first time that we had you on this show, I mean, you're a very big name in the space, right? A lot of people know who you are. You've been around for a long time, like you've said. And we were like this little nobody show, and you're like, yeah, I'll come on. Right? So this just willingness to show up, regardless of, oh, you're not, some big name in the industry, I won't even talk to you kind of thing, is also really amazing. And you gave us kind of a strategy that we have followed ever since then, which is, you said to us, you're like, I don't care, how big or how small you are. You're like, I'll go on any show. I want to get this message out there, right? And we've always taken the same approach. I was like, I've been on shows where we were like their fifth episode ever, as well as being on shows that were the 400th episode, and everything in between. So it's really just not about having big ego. It's just about trying to get out there and help as many people as you can. And so I learned that from you early on, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I also love how honest you are about your own life and relationship.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
maybe people didn't know that you were poly, right? And you're just like, yeah, I'm poly, and I've met two amazing men, and all of that. So I just love that openness to share about your own personal experience. And one thing that you will often see in this industry is people got lots to say and teach, but they clam up about their own life,
Mhm.
right? And their own life often doesn't reflect
Yeah, it's
what
a
they're
shit show.
actually teaching,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so the ability to have both of those in congruency and share that openly is
Hmm.
also something that is really needed in this industry, and that I think you do well.
Thank you so much. Well, that wasn't that fun. Three things I love about you.
It's a great game. Celine and I used to play that all the time. She called it the appreciation game. Same
Yep.
thing, different
Same
name,
thing.
right?
Yep.
And it is absolutely beautiful. It's one of the key tools that I teach couples to
Great.
do, because
Yeah.
it's amazing how many people go through life and you get caught up in your routines. And even if you're thinking these things, you don't voice them, right? And if you're
Hmm.
not voicing them, then your partner doesn't know about it. They just don't, and the resentment builds up. And it's just such a simple yet powerful tool.
Yeah. I actually came up with it on a mushroom journey.
There's that honesty again.
It was funny because I had a bad trip. I do not know how many mushrooms I ate, but it was way too many. And I had this terrible, terrible trip. And I don't actually do a lot of entheogens. I could count on probably, two hands how many times I've done anything like that. It's not my norm particularly, but I've had the experience. I like to have all the experiences. I like to know what, and I like to do things more than three times. I think anything that you're going to do, you should do more than three times so that you begin to have some comfort with it, because you don't just do not know what you're doing the first few times you do it, obviously. So I had this really bad mushroom trip. But one thing I remembered that was like my major download from this particular experience was that I am constantly in my mind. What's going through my mind all the time are loving thoughts. Like, I just love people. I just have a lot of joy. And I would have been sitting here thinking about how hot you are and how I wish you had your ponytail down the entire interview had we not played the three things I love about you, or the adoration game. And the journey was what told me that I needed to start saying the things that I was thinking, that I had all this love to give and I wasn't giving it. And that was just ridiculous. And so I just started doing it, and I got better and better at it. And it just feels like I couldn't not do it now. So that's that, going from conscious incompetence to unconscious competence, which I know you teach a lot of in your power and mastery course, because that is something that men struggle with when you're trying to teach men. It's very difficult for men to start a new thing they're really shitty at, because men live in this pecking order that Terry Real talks a lot about. If you haven't had him on your show, I can introduce you. Have you had Terry on,
I
Dr.
have
Terry Real?
not, no.
He'd be great for you for your men's work, because a lot of what he talks about is the kind of victimhood mentality that men have, and how it's because they live in a pecking order. And if they make a mistake, they go down in the pecking order. And so they won't often put themselves into positions where they're doing a shitty job, because a shitty job means they're a loser. It gets simplified to that. And what men want most is to be respected for a job well done, and they want to win, not lose. And so they have a hard time with it. And that's really what leads to the performance anxiety that men suffer from too, is that they just don't, they're so worried about fucking up that they can't just sit with the sensation of the fear that they have around that, and just stay present, and stop worrying, stop catastrophizing about what happened in the past or what's going to happen in the future. This is all work I learned from Jim Benson, as a matter of fact, who, if you haven't had him on your show, he'd be fantastic too.
Yeah, I'd
He's
love to
a
have them both on.
Yeah, just remind me. He's a men's tantra trainer. And I thought about one more thing too, that I should have asked you before we did the show today, was that I'm actually a spokesperson for 4 companies. And I should have asked you if you wanted any of the things. The one is the Dr. Joel Kaplan Company. They make the Whopper vacuum erection device, the penis pump for reversing atrophy, correcting erectile dysfunction, bringing more blood flow into the penis, all the way up through continued use, doing male enhancement, penis enlargement. And I don't know if I ever gave you a pump. Did I ever give you one?
No, no. Please feel
I
free
got to
to
send
send me
one.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely be pumping. How old are you right now?
I just turned 50.
There you go. You look great. Fantastic. But 50, you got to start being proactive on your erectile function so you can keep your blood carrying capacity very high, so you maintain your really firm erections. Because there's a lot of guys that are pushing a noodle wetter than they think it is, because they've just kind of like slowly declined over time. And you're in great health. Obviously, you're strength training and you're doing things like that, and so you understand progressive overload and having blood, having the pump and all those kinds of things. Bodybuilders are some of my best fans, because they want the carpet to match the drapes, right? And so I'll send you a pump. And then the second one is Gainswave. That's I think we might have talked about that on our last episode, but it was so long ago.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, but I did have Dr. Brandeis on the show.
Judd, yeah, Judd's
Yes,
great.
and when he sent me a copy of his book, which I read, which is a very thick book, but I read the
Yeah,
entire
the
thing,
21st
and
century man.
yes, and which I thought was fantastic, and you have an entire chapter in there that you wrote.
About how to give women incredible pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah, because what 21st century man doesn't want to do that?
Exactly.
So Gainswave is shockwave, acoustic wave treatments to the penile and clitoral tissue. There's Gainswave for him and Gainswave for her. And you're down here in San Diego, so I have to think about what practitioner you could go to. But that, having 6 treatments every couple of years, oh my God, what it does. And what I love about it is the Gainswave for her. What women are focused on is, oh, I have, vaginal pain. I've got vaginal atrophy. I've got loss of lubrication. Well, girl, if you have that, your clit don't work so well anymore either, which means you're losing orgasmic intensity. You're having laxity of the tissue. You're not coming like you used to come. I'm coming better than I've ever come, because I get those treatments. So that's the second one. The third one is Phoria, which is, I will send some to you. It's this intimacy oil. It's awaken arousal oil, these intravaginal melts, and they also have booty melts. I've been really in my anal pleasure discovery era lately. And, I wasn't really called to have a lot of anal sex in the past, but now I've been really enjoying it. My God, is it nice? And they have not just cocoa butter vaginal melts, but they have booty melts, which are fantastic. And then they also have sex oil, which you can basically just I always say, if you wouldn't put it in your mouth, don't put it in your in your genitals. And
Hmm.
this is just like MCT oil, botanicals, cocoa butter, and CBD, which I like because it triggers the endocannabinoid system, which is essentially your pleasure healing pathway. And so, like, if you put the awaken arousal oil on your vulva, your vulva just is going like, now, now. It just like really gets things going. It's like a pre-lubricant. Really helps with that. It gets you going. It gets you really turned on. So this is new, and I'll send this to you so you can try these. And then the last one, I'm now the chief advocacy officer of a company called Basis DX. They have an at-home STI collection kit. So if you just happen to, like, I don't think you should ever have intercourse or oral sex with someone that you haven't, where you two haven't gotten tested. There's too many STIs running around now and virulent versions of them. So hands, kissing is okay, hands on genitals, hands on body, but no genital to genital or mouth to genital contact without an STI test. That's just my safe sex recommendation. And before, you had to make an appointment with a lab, you had to wait to go in, you had to have a blood draw, you had to wait for the results. Now you can have the kits sent to your house. And then if you're like, oh, I think we're going to want to have sex together, let's get tested right now and send them in, and we'll have results in 24 to 48 hours. And so it's like, now we're keeping COVID tests in our, in our houses so that we can check, oh, fuck, is this a flu or is this COVID, and we can have at home collection kits now. So I can get some of those sent over to you as well. So you have them on hand. So you'll have your Foria ready. You'll have your testing kits ready. And, I just really like being prepared for pleasure.
Oh,
So those are some of the
absolutely.
things I've been doing since I saw you, and happy to get you set up with everything.
That would be wonderful. I'll
Yeah.
always follow up with guests after the show with an email, so I'll just put
Yeah.
a little
Good.
reminder in there. And yeah,
Good.
anything you want to send over is great. I
Uh-huh.
had a doctor on the show recently, speaking of the at-home STI testing kits,
Yeah.
and he was talking about the fact that we are having the biggest syphilis outbreak
Yeah.
in like 300 years or something like that, some
Yeah.
ridiculous amount of time. And that's something that we talked about in the pre-interview, and I was like, we have to discuss that because I even in this field, I wasn't aware of that until he mentioned it, right? So,
Yes.
um, that the idea of getting to, well, of course, you come from the poly world also, as have I in the
Right.
past. Celine and I actually started out as a triad, which the
Hmm.
audience already knows, but
Yeah.
in that world, testing is huge. The only way you can operate in that
Yes.
space is if you are getting tested on a regular basis. So I'm a huge advocate of that for sure.
Yeah.
That also was a beautiful segue because,
Yes.
at the end of every show, one of the things I ask the guests is to tell people, where they can find more about you and what they're
Sure.
up to. You told us a little bit about some of the things you're up to, but if there's anything else you want to share where people can find your work.
Yeah. Well, I would say Instagram. You can always follow me on Instagram. It's my name at Susan Bratton, SusanBratton, Susan Bratton. And if you want to be on my newsletter and read all that sexy stuff I write about, go to betterlover.com. You even said be a better lover today. That's my
That's
tagline.
right.
Go to betterlover.com, and right at the top, you can sign up for my newsletter. I send one out 2 days a week on Wednesdays and Fridays, and it's chock full of all kinds of sexy techniques, erotic play dates. Sex life bucket list. What's on your bucket list? We forgot to talk about
Oh,
that,
well,
Kevin.
yeah, I know because we just didn't have time. But yeah,
I know.
I've
Dang it.
got it right here. I printed it
Yeah.
out. I went through your whole sex bucket list, but we just didn't have time to talk about it today.
Can you tell me what's on your bucket list?
Oh,
What were your top things on your bucket list?
let's see. I gotta find because
So
there's a
while he's
section in
finding it,
here for her and then for
yeah,
him. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay.
yeah,
Uh, so when filling this out, you give things a ranking, right? So A, B, or C. But some of the
yeah.
A stuff, obviously, like orgasmic experiences you like on your bucket list. I got A's on penis, prostate, blended P spot,
Uh-huh.
perineal, breathing, full body orgasms, non-ejaculatory orgasms, expanded orgasms, edging, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I am not. Um, and there's nothing wrong with it. We've talked about it on the show many times. We've
yeah,
even had 2 or 3 whole episodes on BDSM. I'm not
yeah,
personally a big BDSM fan, but I know a
yeah. Me
lot of
neither.
people are.
Yeah,
So, like some of the things I did not check those or rank them highly on my
Right.
list.
Same for me. Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same. So you're really into orgasmic expansion right now. You're ready to just like feel a lot more pleasure in a lot more ways. That's what I heard.
Yeah, well, so, for me with the lovemaking experience, it's like if I have a partner who gets this and understands and knows how to have this kind of highly energetic sex, it's like we don't
Hmm.
need a lot of the paraphernalia on the outside. And
Yeah.
it's really about, you know, not so much how long we can go, but like how deep we can go, like how much
Yes.
energy we can create, what kind of altered states of consciousness can
Hmm.
we create through that, which then,
Yeah.
if either of us so choose, can result in really, really powerful, long, multiple orgasms where like you can't even get up and walk because you're like, I'm so dizzy right now. I'm in an altered
Yeah.
state of consciousness. My brain is functioning somewhere else, right?
Yep.
So getting into states like that through sex is kind of my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. That's so good. Fuck brain. Woo. That should have lasted a while. You wander around like, what? I like that
Exactly.
too. Yeah. That's what I like too. I like those extended periods of orgasmic co-creative bliss.
Hmm.
I do definitely love all of that. That's one of the treasures, one of the jewels in the crown of my sex life as well. I definitely love that. And I think one of my programs, Expand Her Orgasm Tonight, which teaches the orgasmic meditation or clitoral stroking, deliberate orgasm technique, has definitely been my path to like touching source or feeling God or Gaia or connection to all living things through orgasm. So that's something that I've been doing for the last couple decades with Tim. We've had an expanded orgasm practice. And
Yes.
it's one of my favorite things, one of my favorite programs of ours that we've helped, 10, 20,000 couples learn the practice in a very heart connected way. And that's a nice experience.
It sure is.
So thank you for checking off your sex life bucket list for me. Yeah, if you're interested in doing that, I'll just finish off by
Yeah.
saying that if anything that I've said left you with questions during this episode, you can reply to any email that you get from me from betterlover.com when you get those 2 emails a week. If you have a question, it doesn't even have to be about what's in the email. It goes right to my inbox. And I'm happy to share, if you're like, what was the thing you said? Or I've got this problem you might be able to help me with. I'm happy to respond to those kinds of things. So I'm here. I've been here. I persist. I exist. And thank you so much for having me back. Can I come back again on your 600th episode or sooner?
Absolutely, you can. You are always a pleasure to talk with and flirt with.
Yeah.
And, by the way, that's a very generous offer, the fact that people can email you and you will actually respond to them. Most
Yeah.
people of your caliber, you're not getting the actual person to respond. You're getting an assistant probably overseas somewhere to respond. So, yeah, if you have a question, absolutely send it to Susan and she will actually answer it. Susan, we are
Yeah.
way over
I
time.
know. Let's keep
However,
having fun. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. There is a question I ask everybody that comes on the show, and one time I forgot to ask it. And
Oh,
somebody on social media actually said, "You didn't ask the question, right?"
okay. Ask
So,
me.
so even though we're late, I got to ask you
Yeah.
anyway, and that is, what is your best sexual talent?
Oh, fuck. Oh God. Well, I'm incredible at cowgirl. My dirty talk is legendary. Um, how well I come and how noisy I am. That's pretty nice. Maybe something. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. I'm fun to fuck. That's my pride and
Mm.
joy is that you never know what I'm going to think up, and it's just fun to have sex with me because I'm always coming up with new things. Oh, today I want to try this. What do you think? Oh, today it's like there's a lot of variety in my lovemaking because I have a lot of natural curiosities and I'm always learning and I'm always growing and I want new experiences. And so every single time I have sex, it's usually has something different in it. So I'd say that's it.
Oh, I can see your emails blowing up right now. The questions coming in are going to be, can I have sex with you because you are fun to fuck? Which, by the way, if I don't care how hot a woman is, if she's not fun to fuck, like,
Right.
seriously?
Exactly.
Who
Yeah.
wants to fuck
Yeah.
somebody who's not fun to fuck?
Yeah. We put too much emphasis on, as women, on how we look instead of how much fun we are to fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. And even if a woman is not that good looking, but she's really
Yeah.
fun to fuck, she will always have a full bed. Always.
She looks beautiful if she's fun to fuck.
That's true. That is absolutely true. All right, Susan, thank you again for coming on the show. You are
My
always
pleasure.
so much fun to talk with.
Yeah. Thank you. I had a great time. Love you.
I love you too. All right, everybody. That's all the time I have for this episode, and I will see you next week.
Mwah!
I hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoyed this show, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. And for more free exclusive content, join me in the Passion Vault at kevinandceline.com/vault. That's kevinandceline.com/vault. Thanks for listening, and remember, as Celine used to say, you're amazing.